Thanks for staying tuned. Bandits suspected to be cattle rustlers have killed 2 policemen and a civilian in the Megana district of Soba local government area of Kaduna State. Our correspondent in the state reports that the incident happened early this morning when the policemen engaged the bandits in a gun battle following a distress call by residents of the area about the hoodlums who had been terrorizing the community. The Kaduna State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Agiol Abe, told Channels Television that the deceased were on a routine patrol in the area when they were ambushed by the gunmen who opened fire on them.
The men were on routine patrol. They were now responding to a distress call, and because of the visibility at that particular time, they were ambushed, and the attackers from the bush opened fire on their vehicle, and consequently the backup team behind engaged the hoodlum and they disappeared into the thick forest. However, 2 of our men sustained fatal injuries and they were rushed to the hospital. But unfortunately, they died before any help could come at the clinic. We are at the peak of ending the menace of these bandits. We are putting into motion every measure to ensure that these incidents do no longer occur.
The news today seems to be full of increased in criminal activities across the country involving cattle rustlers, headsmen, suicide bombers, as well as kidnappers. Well, to discuss this and how to tackle this at this point, I've been joined on the News at 10 by retired Colonel Hassan Stan Labo. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Larry.
Why is there this increase, do you think? It appears as if there is an increase, isn't there?
Yeah, right.
And why? Why so? Why now?
First of all, Larry, I think we have not been able to put in place what I would call appropriate urban security strategies for our cities, you know. And secondly, I think we are not applying sanctions. There are no sanctions. If there are, why are we not applying them? Because look, let me tell you, irrespective of whether the Fulanis involved in, I'm looking at the headsmen now, because you mentioned a lot of other things. If the Fulanis involved are whether foreign Fulanis or indigenous Fulanis, I think that's irrelevant. The most important thing is that there is an infraction on our law. And that calls for what? Arrest and necessary trials. We are not seeing any of this happening. And so since there are no sanctions that would have served as deterrence to others, we begin to see how these things are escalating.
Well, if the DSS is to be believed, they are making some arrests, even though the prosecutory part of it may not quite yet be visible, but they are making some arrests. But I was wondering if indeed this aspect of what's going on also brings to mind the issue of synergy between the agencies, because there are various levels of criminality involved, and possibly all of them can be tackled by a single agency.
I think to a greater extent we want the level of synergy ongoing amongst the law enforcement agencies, even though I would say there is still room for improvement. And then outside the law enforcement agencies, I think I would still want to see some serious cooperation by the judiciary. Okay? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but you see, as a nation, we must remain focused. We know what we want. It's just like the anti-graft war thing. You know, it's unfortunate that when you catch one big thief and send him to the courts, the whole sons in Nigeria are lined up behind him to defend him, just because everybody wants a slice from the cake. We know him as a big thief, and everybody, our lawyers just taught only how to lie, and that's all. Senior lawyers, for that matter. Unfortunate. Unfortunate.
In bringing you back to this issue of the security threats, take a look at for example, what's happening in the University of Maiduguri, for just now taking it to the terrorism aspect of it. Yeah. Over the last couple of weeks, there have been attempts, and sometimes successful ones, to detonate IEDs in that university. In fact, only yesterday, the National Assembly passed a resolution asking for action to prevent the closure of the institution as a result of this threat. Now, some have pointed out that there is a lack in the human intelligence capacity, that many of these people are not outsiders. They are people who live within those communities, and that people sometimes know them.
Ladi, intelligence must be citizen-driven. Okay? The citizen must be seen to be taking ownership of his security. If they do that, if we place the citizen at the center of it all, I think we should have quite some leverage of improvement. Okay? If we are not doing that, then I'm afraid the result will not be to our satisfaction. Why? Because let's face it, when the citizen takes ownership of his security, this concept of see something, say something, you don't have to preach it anymore. He knows what he's got to do. Inform the nearest law enforcement agents. When we are talking about terrorism, these guys live amongst us. Terrorism is a different ball game altogether. Okay? These guys live amongst us. And in most cases, like you know with terrorism, the battle space at times is not even defined. Okay? The guy might be living amongst you, but he's faceless. It could be your own blood brother or sister dining with you on the same dining table. Only in the next 2-3 hours, he's exploding a bomb in one motor park somewhere. And when you see his corpse, you get shocked. My own blood brother? That's terrorism for you. So we must do everything to ensure that citizens get soaked into this idea of, look, taking the ownership of security.
Thank you very much, retired Colonel Hassan Stanlabo, for joining us tonight. It's a very complicated problem, but we hope we will be able to get out of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
NPF Microfinance Bank says it's recorded marginal growth during the 2016 financial year in spite of the country's economic challenges. The bank's managing director, Akinwumi Lawal, during its 23rd annual general meeting in Enugu, says gross earnings grew by 13.64% from 688.8 million naira to 803.4 million naira in 2016.
Your question is,
It's a gathering of shareholders and members of the board of the NPF Microfinance Bank for the 23rd annual general meeting to look at the results and performance of the bank in the year 2016. First, the managing director of the bank, Mr. Akinwumi Lawal, told the gathering that despite the economic recession, the bank growth for the year 2016 was impressive.
The bank maintained a growing output in a recessionary period. The turnover increased by 13.86% from 2.592 billion in 2015 to 2.295 billion in 2016.
After the presentation, the shareholders made their observations and suggestions.
I am pleading that we should be able to consider to do a bonus for we shareholders.
Effort must be made through your website or through any other means on the net to display the unclaimed dividend holders.
The shareholders also, in a vote, approved the increase in the number of board members from 9 to 11 and the declaration of dividend for the sum of 342.9 million naira, representing 15 kobo per ordinary share of 50 kobo of the bank, to be paid to relevant authorities. Meanwhile, the chairman of the board, Mr. Azuboko Joe Uda, who is excited about the development and growth of the bank, said the NPF Microfinance Bank will continue to improve its customer base and medium-scale enterprises grow.
We have now veered into making sure, since it's a microfinance bank, to supporting small and medium-scale industries and enterprises.
The board has, however, assured shareholders that all observations and suggestions made in the course of the meeting will be implemented for more advancement.
Time for the business news of this evening, and here's Anne.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Laddie, and welcome to Business News. The United States, a new economic counselor to Nigeria, Mr. Ellen Tilsignant, says that he's impressed with the policy framework and the details of Nigeria's new economic recovery and growth plan. In an exclusive interview on Business Morning today, the American economic chief praised the new tax amnesty program rolled out last week by the Ministry of Finance. And new key indices at the Nigerian Stock Exchange lifted the all-share index further at the close of trading today. Chimeze Obiwagu has the details.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. It was another dramatic close for the equities market and of course a good Friday for traders. The bulls and the bears really struggled to take position, and just like Thursday, a minute to the time of close of market, the bulls emerged the winner, pushing the all-share index into the green, up 0.32%. Again, Dangote Cement takes the credit for this sudden reversal of the index after adding 99 kobo to its share price to enter the gainers list at the dying minute. Insurance and consumer goods were the major laggards, as all the other sectors reported positive numbers. But on the price movement chart, the share price of Transcorp moved the most upwards by 7.52%. Down the ladder, Conoil led the decliners by 9.74%. In all, transaction value dropped from Thursday's close to finish at 2.47 billion naira with a volume of 212.3 million shares. The half-year earnings season begins next week, and analysts expect the market to continue in the positive territory for the most of the week, supported by strong half-year earnings and macroeconomic stability. And that was the Stock Market Report. I'm Chimeze Obiwagu.
Thank you, Chimeze. Well, as for U.S. stocks, they opened higher following the June employment report. With details on Wall Street is VOA Channels TV business correspondent Jill Malandrino.
U.S. stocks open a touch higher following the June employment report. 222,000 jobs were created versus consensus of 178,000 jobs, with upward revisions to the April and May reports. The unemployment rate upticked to 4.3% from 4.2%, and wage growth, the key to the employment report, came in at 0.2% versus consensus of 0.3%. The story today is crude trading below $45 a barrel in an oversupplied market and record production. The next piece of data for crude traders comes out at 1 p.m. Eastern today with the BHI rig count. Looking to the trading week ahead, earnings season kicks off on Friday, July 14th with the big banks, including Citi, JP Morgan, PNC, and Wells Fargo. There's a slew of manufacturing consumer data, including PPI, CPI, and retail sales. We shall see if stagnant wage growth plays into those consumer numbers. Finally, a number of Fed speakers will be on the circuit, but the highlight of the week will be Fed Chair Yellen as she testifies before the Senate banking panel. From the NASDAQ market site in New York, I'm Jill Malandrino, and this is Channels VOA Business News.
For major global equities, they ended the first week of July mixed across board as investors digest fresh economic data and happenings at the G20 summit in Hamburg, Germany. Here are the figures for today. And with those figures, we end Business News for tonight. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm Anne Nwaudu. Back to you, Laddie.
You first. First Bank.
Thanks, Anne. Still ahead on the news at 10, FIFA suspends Sudan with immediate effect owing to government interference in the country's football association. That's in sports news. Please stay on with us.